What's the full form of WHO? You must be thinking World Health Organization, maybe on paper. But in the real world, in this pandemic-stricken world, the WHO stands for China Health Organization. Because since the COVID virus was let loose upon the world from a laboratory in Wuhan, the WHO, a United Nations organization, has worked less to serve the world and far more to protect China's image, to cover up the truth. And for China's leader, dictator Xi Jinping. The WHO's website says that the organization promotes health, keeps the world safe, and serves the vulnerable. Do you really think the WHO has been doing any of this? You know the answer. The WHO has only been serving and safeguarding China. And now, it seems to have woken up from its inebriated slumber to realize that China has been cooking up COVID stories, underrepresenting and undercounting Wuhan virus deaths. Let me now read out what the WHO's emergencies director recently said. I'm quoting. "We believe that the current numbers being published from China underrepresent the true impact of the disease." Are you kidding me? Where's the news here? Where's the headline? Haven't we known this since day one, since China began muzzling voices and kidnapping whistleblowers? We've known that the Chinese denial narrative was fraught with deception. What took the WHO so long to realize this? Actually, I'd like to answer that tonight. You see, this organization, the WHO, was wearing horse blinds, or maybe it was wearing a mask across its eyes instead of across its mouth. This man, the WHO chief, Dr. Tedros, was an ally in China's campaign of lies. He became an accomplice in China's crime. It took a series of deliberate missteps to shield China. In fact, let's recall some of them, shall we? By the end of 2019, it was clear that all was not well in China, that the virus in Wuhan was not something the world should be taking lightly. But China began to spread a sequence of falsehoods. It began with a lie. What the virus does not jump from one person to another. All lies. The WHO was supposed to fact-check China. Guess what it did instead? The WHO endorsed the Chinese lie. Look at this now. Back then, Dr. Tedros and co. went a step further and downplayed the Wuhan virus. On the 11th of January back in 2020, the WHO told the world that there was no need to take any preventive measures. We've all paid the price for that now. I would like to read out this tweet for you. The WHO does not recommend any specific health measures for travelers to and from Wuhan, China. It is generally considered that entry screening offers little benefit while requiring considerable resources. It all seems like a bad joke. So I ask you, what is the role of the WHO again? To protect the world. To remind the world that precaution is better than cure. The body has been doing just the opposite. This tweet was from the 11th of January in 2020. On the 13th, a person in Thailand caught the Wuhan virus. It was the first reported case outside China. The virus had jumped borders, all under the WHO's watch, so-called careful watch. And by February 2020, the virus had reached Italy. We all know what happened then. The world was talking about the chain reaction, how carriers without symptoms could be spreading the virus. Do you remember what the WHO said back then? That it did not consider asymptomatic transmission a significant factor in the outbreak. Imagine that. In other words, let down your guards and go about your life as usual and let the virus infect you. That's what the WHO was advising. Do you realize the World Health Organization, or this China Health Organization, is now culpable in millions of deaths? It had the audacity to scold countries, lecture countries for trying to safeguard their own. When India, the United States and Australia restricted travel from China, Dr. Tedros took the move rather personally. Why do I say that? Look at this statement. We reiterate our call to all countries not to impose restrictions that unnecessarily interfere with international travel and trade. Such restrictions can have the effect of increasing fear and stigma with little public health benefit. Can you believe that? This man did not care one bit about public health. He let the virus spread. The body watched people die. The WHO wasted as much time as he could before declaring the Wuhan virus a pandemic. And all this while, Dr. Tedros was singing praises for Xi Jinping, celebrating the dictator's supposedly rare leadership. In January 2020, Dr. Tedros told the world, and I'm quoting here again, "I was very encouraged and impressed by the president's detailed knowledge of the outbreak." He's talking about Xi Jinping. Why is it then that 3 years on, the WHO is okay with the fact that China has not shared a word, a single word, on the origins of this virus? One wonders, what is it that China has on Tedros? Was this Dr. Tedros' way of saying thank you to its mentor? For he would not have become the WHO chief had it not been for China's support. So was Tedros repaying China with his silence? Or is there more? Some people holding important positions went public with allegations of corruption. Remember Mark Pompeo? The US Secretary of State under Donald Trump, he once told a group of British lawmakers that China had bought the head of the WHO, which may explain why the WHO became a Chinese mouthpiece. Why was it endorsing China when the Chinese virus was jumping borders, wreaking havoc, causing deaths? Let me now read out what the WHO once said. It said, China had quote-unquote rolled out perhaps the most ambitious, agile and aggressive disease containment effort in history. So what happened? Why are the morgues in China full? Why are 70% of Shanghai's residents reportedly infected? In February 2020, Dr. Tedros said, and his team said, that China had averted and delayed hundreds of thousands of cases, protecting the global community. Breaking news, 6 million people have died, all because of the Wuhan virus, thanks to the WHO's betrayal. So it's no use waking up now. It's too little, too late. The pandemic was the WHO's moment to rise up to the occasion and provide a global health leadership. God knows we all needed it. Instead, it chose to run a cover-up campaign on behalf of a criminal. Here's an idea. Instead of calling out China 3 years into the pandemic, the WHO should shake off its inebriation, conduct an internal audit, and sack its chief. Maybe then it will be news. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.